And greetings. Happy Wednesday. That's right. It's Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show, live and on demand here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast alongside Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. I'm Steve Deace. We're brought to you by our friends at My Patriot Supply. Last month, the country, half the country anyway, got hit by one of the worst winter storms for decades. Thousands of people lost power. I saw people in the Nashville area didn't have power for, in some cases, for like a week. All right. Blackouts can become the new normal, particularly if you live in a blue state. Listen, one of the smartest moves you can make is to make sure you're prepared for these kinds of things, which is why I recommend the Grid Doctor 3300 solar generator from our friends over at My Patriot Supply, because unlike the gas ones, it's safe, silent to use indoors, and it's completely off the grid. That means it couldn't be shut off by the powers that be. And if you go to preparedness.com today, when you order the Grid Doctor generator, you're going to get over $800 in free preparedness gifts, including a 4-week survival food kit, water filtration, a cook stove, and more. So I pretty much got everything from My Patriot Supply, except now this doohickey, this new thing, the Grid Doctor 3300 solar generator. I'm going to look at that myself, because the rest of the stuff I just told you, I've got that sitting in my shed right now, just in case. Finally saw what happened to our friends in North Carolina, our countrymen there a couple of years ago, and I just thought, listen, if that can happen there, man, then none of us are safe, right? So go to preparewithdeace.com, all right? That's preparewithdeace.com. You can get the Grid Doctor 3300 solar generator and all of their other preparedness items at preparewithdeace.com. All right, coming up on the show today, typical Wednesday lined up for you. We'll get to buy, sell, or hold coming up at the bottom of the hour. End of the program, final segment, we'll be joined by the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation, Daniel Horowitz, and we'll get to all that and more. First, though, we have to get to Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by Which Way, Western Man. Yesterday at the Pentagon, Pastor Douglas Wilson, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth's former pastor, delivered this sermon.
The great gift that is given to the body of Christ that shows that something dramatic is afoot is the gift of boldness. What will be the evidence that the Spirit has determined to bless us with such a grace? The followers of Christ, filled with the Spirit, will stand firm, and they will always speak the word of Christ with boldness, never ashamed of one bit of it. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen.
Meanwhile, on CBS, Late Show host Stephen Colbert appears to have straight up lied, surprise, surprise, and claimed that the Trump FCC barred him from airing an interview with Texas Senate candidate James Talarico, an interview which in part contained yet more blasphemy.
Well, for 50 years, the religious right, a political movement, that is the perfect description for it, they convinced a lot of our fellow Christians that the most important issues were abortion and gay marriage. Two issues that aren't mentioned in the Bible, two issues that Jesus never talked about. Jesus in Matthew 25 tells us exactly how you and I and every one of our fellow believers, how we're going to be judged and how we're going to be saved. By feeding the hungry, by healing the sick, by welcoming the stranger. Nothing about going to church, nothing about voting Republican. It was all about how you treat other people. I've said before, don't tell me what you believe. Show me how you treat other people, and I'll tell you what you believe. And I think in our faith, we've got to get back to those fundamentals. My granddad was a Baptist preacher in South Texas, and when I was little, he told me that Christianity is a simple religion. Not an easy religion, he would always clarify, but a simple religion because Jesus gave us two commandments: love God and love neighbor. And there was no exception to that second commandment. Love thy neighbor regardless of race or gender or sexual orientation or immigration status or religious affiliation. And it's why I have fought so hard for the separation of church and state.
Which way, American man? The Holy Spirit working through men like Doug Wilson, or another spirit using James Talarico to spew smooth, velvety blasphemy? The choice is yours. In other news, Vice President J.D. Vance gave an interview to Fox News yesterday amidst the backdrop of an historically large buildup of military assets in and around the Middle East. Vance seemed to indicate nuclear talks with Iran in Geneva aren't exactly going well.
The United States has certain red lines. Our primary interest here is we don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon. We don't want nuclear proliferation. If Iran gets a nuclear weapon, there are a lot of other regimes, some friendly, some not so friendly, who would get nuclear weapons after them. That would be a disaster for the American people, because then you have these crazy regimes all over the world with the most dangerous weapons in the world, and that's one of the things the president has said he's going to prevent. Now, we would very much like, as the president has said, to resolve this through a conversation and a diplomatic negotiation, but the president has all options on the table. And, one thing about the negotiation I will say this morning is, in some ways it went well. They agreed to meet afterwards, but in other ways it was very clear that the president has set some red lines that the Iranians are not yet willing to actually acknowledge and work through. So we're going to keep on working it, but of course the president reserves the ability to say when he thinks that diplomacy has reached its natural end. We hope we don't get to that point, but if we do, that'll be the president's call.
Meanwhile, in New York City, who could have seen this coming except for anybody with an intellect above AOC's sub-equatorial IQ?
In order to get to this point of closing the gap on both this fiscal year and the next fiscal year, we are forced to raid the Rainy Day Fund, the Retiree Health Benefits Trust Reserve, and to increase property taxes across these other years. The first is the most sustainable and the fairest path. This is the path of ending the drain on our city and raising taxes on the richest New Yorkers and the most profitable corporations.
At the Texas Attorney General debates last night hosted by The Blaze, Congressman Chip Roy laid out his plan for dealing with the proliferation of Islam in the Lone Star State.
This afternoon, I met with my friends Keith Self and people here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area because we started the Sharia-Free America Caucus. We introduced legislation in Congress to take away the tax status for care. I introduced legislation to pause all immigration until we've gotten our house in order to stop what is happening to this great country and this great state. To be very clear, when you talk to the experts, the Muslim Brotherhood has a specific plan to Islamify the state of Texas. You're seeing it unfold in Dallas-Fort Worth right now. There are no-go zones where women don't want to go here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. There are people that are listening to prayer calls. We are having to deal with a massive change in our culture because we haven't recognized that there is a war being carried against us. If you're Attorney General, you have enormous power to follow the money. And as Attorney General, I will go after the 600-plus organizations that are advancing Sharia, undermining Western civilization, using the full power of the office.
And finally, back in Iowa, Congressman and gubernatorial candidate Randy Feenstra was finally confronted on why he's such a coward and won't show up for debates.
The name of this group is Mega Nation, right? Yep. So we have a couple questions for you, Randy. Number one is this. Why did you scrub your social media account the first time that Trump ran? Then you say you're also Trump, but you didn't support President Trump in the caucuses. And then, be honest with you, all of us right here, we're grassroots. We're the put the signs, knock the doors, do all that stuff. And when you don't show up for the debates or the forums, you're basically giving all of us a sharp stick.
Thank you, Jimmy. I tell you what, I go around to every place in Iowa having meeting groups because I want to meet people just like you to answer questions and say, hey, how can we make Iowa a better place to live?
For those of you listening, Congressman Feenstra couldn't run away from that question fast enough. That feeling you feel right now, I believe that's a version of what the young ladies call getting the ick. And that's what happened while we were away.
Aaron's montage brought to you by Birch Gold. I don't know if you guys got up this morning and heard about all the various troop movements. Our friend and colleague Ron McIntyre sent me a text this morning. I don't think we're sending multi-billion-dollar floats of assets to the Middle East to set up mean tweets. Oil surged. Last I heard, is at $65 a barrel right now. So
that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, just another reason in these times of uncertainty, gold is where you want to be as a sanctuary, as a hedge. All right. And it gives you the peace of mind knowing that given all the events that could impact the economy, gold is the place that for eons now smart investors have gone to protect themselves from uncertainty just like this. So get your free info kit on gold from our friends over at Birch Gold Group. All you got to do is text Steve to 989898. That's text Steve to 989898. No obligation, just useful information with an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. Tens of thousands of happy customers. Birch Gold is going to help you diversify and convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. But you get started today with this free info kit. Text Steve to 989898. To the montage we go. Quick question. I mean, there's kind of an elephant in the room. We should probably address it. We wouldn't be doing our jobs if we didn't. Just real quick, we're all scheduled to go to Israel on Saturday for a week, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, think we're going? Thoughts? What do you think? Just real quick.
Not sure.
Not sure. Yeah. I will tell you, I have been working the phones all morning with this news. And I think I've proven over the years I have some pretty good sources on matters such as these. In fact, the last time we did this, I accidentally spilled the beans. I didn't mean to do it and had to take the tweet off. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I'm not sure either. But, I mean, I would say yesterday at this time, I thought it was 100%, and I was making all the arrangements accordingly. But today I would say not sure. Aaron, you have any quick thoughts on this before we move on to the rest of the programming for the day?
I'm more skeptical than not sure.
Yeah. So we shall see.
You're saying there's a chance.
Yeah. I want to just say I love Doug Wilson. And it's a pleasure to have gotten to know him. I love the guys out there in Idaho. Knox, Toby, my man Gabe. They're kind of his proteges, if you will. And there was a guy in my very first sports talk radio audience. I think his name was Eric. That when I first got converted, and back then, man, it was still on cassettes and CDs. And he sent me a bunch of cassettes and CDs, said, you're going to like this guy. You need to listen to him. And it was Doug Wilson, you know. And I've been out to Moscow, Idaho, and seen how they roll. I've spoken out there. It was kind of surreal for me at AmFest to get ready to share. One of the 4 speaking slots I had out there was to share the stage with Doug on. And it was funny because it was not kind of like, we know we need to address this entire Groyper situation. So who are 2 adult men that we could put up here that might be even more stubborn than the Groypers? and Lucas Miles goes, what do you think of, how about you and Doug? I said, well, I think if you're looking for 2 guys more hard-headed than the young Groypers in the room, you probably came to the right dynamic duo there, or stubborn duo there.
Stubborn, but so affable. When Aaron and I were apart from you at AmFest and getting in, right in front of us is Sam Sorbo. Right behind us is Doug Wilson, and we all ended up talking. Doug Wilson could not be a kinder man.
No, completely true.
Doug is the only I'm not trying to pump myself, but Doug is the only person who didn't know me or we didn't know each other that I actually went up to and introduced myself to at AmFest. That's how much respect I have for him.
Amen. So well done out of Secretary of War Pete Hegseth having Doug come in and give that message there at the Pentagon. That's incredible.
And it being Ash Wednesday, it couldn't be more timely. And Aaron, you said it yesterday. Bold, bold, bold. Your faith must be explicitly bold in this time. Otherwise, and I'm sure, Steve, you're going to say it, and that's a perfect segue, and Talarico's.
That's where I'm going next. That's where I'm going next for sure. So I've mentioned this anecdote before, but I'm going to reset it again because I want to set up for you what you're seeing with the likes of James Talarico, and you're going to see more of this now. Okay? So on the church side, I really believe, and I was on with Brad Stein and taped his podcast yesterday, the conservative comedian actor, and I mentioned this to him that I am very confident that we are watching God move in America today. I am very confident. Now, that may not necessarily mean Pax Americana. It may not mean that.
Uh-oh.
It may not mean that. I mean, God has uniquely providentially blessed this country, has uniquely used it as a vessel for the gospel and the kingdom of light for going on a 4th century. Okay. And that being said, though, the only eternal kingdom is the kingdom of God. And as Ruth Graham said to Billy before she died, if God doesn't judge America, he'll have to apologize to Sodom and Gomorrah. That was 30 years ago. Like things have gotten better since, okay? So I am confident God is moving. I'm not as confident about the long-term future of the country. It doesn't mean I'm not confident. It just means I don't know. But the signs of how God moves typically, when there's a great movement of God, a revival coming, a reset coming, I think you tend to see, and I could give you if we had more time, I'd give you biblical examples of this pattern. But you see this pattern really in the formation of the Christian church, okay? The first is a sifting, right? Right? So when Christ calls his apostles, he does not go to the temple to call his apostles. He does not go meet with the Sanhedrin and say, give me your brightest, right? He is sifting out the existing religious structure. And the existing religious structure is very divided by this, and some will join with him and many will not. So there's a sifting. I think in our country, we've seen a series of siftings, right? We've talked about this before, right? That the scamdemic was a sifting. BLM was a sifting. Who would just fall for any form of emotional identity politic, toxic empathy, for example, and line up with it.
Transgenderism, yeah.
Tranny madness is a sifting. I think the jab was a sifting, okay? Who would just do whatever government said, for example. And I think if Charlie's murder wasn't the final sifting, I think we're close to the final sifting. And that, those of you who email me now and say, what can I do to wake up your pastor? I would probably just tell you, go get a new one. I mean, I'm not saying that the pastor can't ever be awakened. I'm just saying you won't have, that'll take something supernatural. If the events that directly impacts him, if the events that I just laid out have not awakened your pastor by now, that he's going to need a Holy Spirit jab to the ribs or kick to the shin. You can't do it. Move on. You're casting pearls before swine. Go someplace where you can see your Father at work. All right. After the sifting, okay, becomes now the implementation of a new structure. Remember what I said when I watched Charlie's memorial, is that it struck me that this was like the Lord saying, I'm moving beyond the existing. I'm tired of waiting on your sweater-vested, skinny jean-wearing mausoleums in the suburbs, or Todd likes to point out an entire collective boomer generation of dioceses around America. I'm done. I'm out of here. We're moving on, right? And that's, Christ says it's hard to pour new wine into old wineskins, right? Christ does not say upon the Sanhedrin, upon the Pharisees, right? He says, upon this rock I will build my church. Not even the gates of hell will prevail against it. So new ecclesiastical structures are formed outside of the traditional existing ones in a given era. And then what typically happens after that, the third stage is now mobilization, right? So there's several other examples I could point to in the scriptures of this, but let's just use the formation of the Christian church, the most obvious one. And you see this historically too, by the way, this pattern. Sifting, structure, mobilization. Write that down if you're at home. Sifting, structure, mobilization, right? So now that the church has been put in place, he then says to his apostles, you got a mission. Go ye into all the world, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them the commandments I have given you. First to Jerusalem, then Judea. So first to your hometown, then your home country, then the outer part of the next country over your neighbors, Samaria, and then now to the ends of the earth. Disciple the nations. Mobilization. The enemy's kingdoms have a similar threefold ministry, I guess we'll call it. The first step is to shame you for displaying your belief system and make you think as if this is really just private things between you and God and not to be expressed anywhere where anyone might hear or see your witness. Seems like we've been through that era, right?
Yes.
The second then, so we have shame, then we have secularization. So now that you've been conditioned that you don't have to, because here's the other thing too, we have a tendency to want to just keep this thing private because then it won't cost us anything, right?
Yep.
All right, won't cost us a job, won't cost us a relationship, won't cost us any scorn.
The opposite of boldness.
Yes. Right? So once we internalize that public shaming of our belief system, and we essentially throw ourselves into some kind of intellectual ghetto, what comes next now is secularization, or the lie that there's a neutral space where no one rules and no one is worshipped, and no such space exists, ever has existed, or ever will. Third, then, will come replacement. So shame you into internalizing your beliefs, convince you that there's some secular realm so that you'll stay private, all right, and that there's a place where no one rules and no one reigns and no one is worshipped, and we all just, come together and buy the world a Coke. The next step is replacement. And this is then when evil believes, when the darkness believes it has enough of a foothold now, then it just turns the tables like at the end of Animal Farm, and they look from pig to man and back to and pig to, or man to pig and then back to pig again, and they couldn't tell which was which. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad becomes 4 legs are good, but 2 legs are even better. From burn down the farmer's house to actually we're going to go ahead and live in that house now. And now we're going to, as Oron likes to say, wear out your religion like a skin suit, all right? Put it on display while we then use the state and its power to impose our religion on you. We're entering into this third stage now. This is the third stage we're in now. James Talarico is going to be Legion. And I said that, it's not a pun. He's going to be Legion. Well, maybe it is then. And remember, I told you guys this story about many years ago, a church we attended, a sweet little church, and I was on the preaching team there for several years. And it was an older church, and we were one of the younger families there at the time. And the pastor wanted me to, just kind of update. This would have been 2007, 2008. Social media was just coming in, right? Back when our generation was on the cutting edge, Todd. That's how long ago this was. Now almost 20 years now.
It's been a spell.
Yeah, and our pastor wanted us. Pastor Bob wanted me. The elders are all older boomers. This is all new to them, and just walk them through this technology, what their kids and grandkids are seeing, etc. And remember, I think I've told you guys the story. I played this video of the Dalai Lama, Oprah Winfrey, and Rob Bell all doing a religious symposium together. Remember, I told you the story, and they watched it. Okay, these are all seasoned saints. It's a sweet little church where the Bible is preached expositionally, verse by verse, line by line. Okay, these people have been walking for the Lord. At this point in my life, most of these elders, if not all, have all been walking with the Lord longer than I've been alive. Right. And I play this video for them, and they're like, they're sitting there with their wives, because we're having a couple's night, and they're like, oh, yeah, that's interesting. It's something to consider. Wow, I didn't expect that, with the Dalai Lama and Oprah there. That's a new perspective, right? I said, okay, let's break for something to eat, take a potty break. Came back about 20, 30 minutes later, so all the emotion is worn off, right? Okay. And then I had printed off a transcript of the remarks, and I just read what was said. Took all the visual presentation, all the emotion, all the empathy out of it, and just coldly read the words. And they all looked at me like, who's this young heretic that Pastor Bob led into the room, and when do we get to string him up? And I said, hey, folks, this is the transcript of what you guys were all just nodding to less than a half an hour ago. And it blew their minds. That's what you just saw with James Talarico. And so since sadly too many of our churches aren't going to equip you for the likes of Talarico, we're going to do their job here for the next 10 minutes. Here's how you can tell. Because there's some things there that Talarico said that are kind of true, somewhat true, mostly even true.
This is why I said this is blasphemous.
Yes, but totally out of every context imaginable.
And he knows it.
Yeah, he is an object and a vessel of malevolence. All right? When he speaks, he's not deceived. He's the deceiver. He is. He is who Paul would have said in Acts, you are a son of the devil. He knows what he is doing. And the key there is saying, my daddy was a Baptist minister. He knows what he's doing. Here's how you can tell. Because you're going to get emotionally worked over more now than ever before. The attempts to co-opt our faith and then hollow it out, wear it like a skin suit, and then scourge us with it. Put us in the stockade, rip off our clothes, and whip us with it like a cat of nine tails they gave to Christ. That's the era we're walking into now. So you must be prepared. So here's how you can be simply prepared. Make a note of this too. If sin and repentance and redemption are nowhere in their message. It doesn't matter what else they say. It doesn't matter how well they may say it. It doesn't even matter how right they may or may not be on some of the secondary, tertiary matters related or adjacent to the gospel they may address. That is not the gospel. It is not. It's a husk. Jesus called it a whitewashed tomb. The heart and soul of the gospel, the battle that was waged over your soul and then is now being waged over your heart and mind, is because of sin, repentance, and redemption. When I said earlier, I am optimistic that God is moving mightily in our country now, I'm not as optimistic about what it means for the future of what we would call Americana or American exceptionalism. It might be great, might not be. Here's why it might not be. Was there a Christian church before the United States of America?
Yes.
Will there be one long after? There isn't one.
Hope so.
Yeah. So therefore, if the choice is a leaner, meaner, holier church that is full of, that now it has been sifted through and now may have fewer people, but they're all ready and willing to finish their race and confirm their testimonies, or, just having an America that has a smaller, more reasonable budget, it's more reasonably moral, and a smaller divorce rate. What choice does the Lord make, do you think? Chooses the church every time. Every single time. Because some of the things I just mentioned you could do just morally if you really tried hard. Couldn't sustain it, but you could do it for a while. So if there's no sin, repentance, redemption, that's not the gospel. Jesus didn't die for anyone's agenda on either side. He died for your sins. Jesus wasn't risen to life for anyone's agenda on either side, but for you to have eternal life and redemption. We're all going to be dead way longer than we were ever alive. The questions we are hotly and existentially debating in this culture today existed in this world long before this culture did, and they will exist in this world until the day himself, Christ, returns, regardless of the conditions of this culture. Sin, repentance, and redemption are the heart and soul of the gospel. Anybody comes to you, to paraphrase Paul, even quoting an angel, and would come to you later and give you another gospel. Well, they had it wrong all these years. The church had it wrong all these years. Here's your new prophet. No, they're not. Guess what was completely and totally missing from James Talarico's message? Sin, repentance, and redemption. So guess what you just heard none of from James Talarico? The gospel. Gentlemen, your thoughts.
But it must be stressed, the eagerness right there, in contrast to the total lack thereof on much of the Christian right that, we agree on 95% of things. But there you have a Catholic and grandson of a Baptist there. They can't wait to come together with that message boldly. We, on the other hand, are shanking each other on the daily. Various versions of, I'm the one who's going to get to sit at the right hand, not you. That we really, once again, it's nothing short of demonic because of what Steve said. He's intentionally leaving it out. It's not an accident. But once again, they're prepared to be bold. We apparently are prepared to be comfortable and stupid.
One of the inclinations that needs to be defeated amongst those who say they know what time it is this inclination of, he's just misguided, I'll pray for him. Pray for him, yes, but defeat him, because I'm telling you, that's a wolf.
Yep.
That's a wolf.
Yep.
And he knows what he's doing, and he is trying to deceive. He must be defeated, and any inclination he shares with others.
Amen. Hour 2 is next.
The Steve Deace Show.
All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show. I finally got time last night after watching my number one Wolverines do something we have like rarely done in my life, go to Mackey Arena and win a game that matters. I was able to log back on the Jevity app and watch the video of my blood work yet again because there's so much information there. And I mean, listen, I'm hooked up with a lot of good doctors and people coming out of the COVID era. So I get a lot of good medical information all the time. And even Jevity even showed me some stuff in my own blood work I'd not even heard before. All right. They test over 100 labs, hormones, inflammation, nutrient levels, metabolic health, and more. There was so much information there, man. I had to watch the video twice. Now, some of you are saying, I don't have time for that. It's your health, bruh. Okay? You have one life to live here. It's your health. You got time for that money. You do, all right? Particularly given the way they walk you through this and the information. And so I needed to watch it again so I knew what questions to ask in my follow-up, which I just did that this morning too to get that scheduled. So a lot of great information there, founded by a company whose father was lost before he turned 60 to lung cancer, despite not being a smoker and no warning signs from the conventional medical system whatsoever. So if you don't want to get blindsided, go to gojevity.com/Deace. It's GEVITI. GEVITI. Gojevity, like longevity. Gojevity.com/Deace. Use the code Deace. You'll get 20% off your first membership when you go to gojevity.com/Deace and use the code Deace for 20% off. All right, let's get to it. It is time yet again to play our weekly game of buy, sell, or hold. It's a special time. It's a fun game. It's tradition, unlike any other. You guys have submitted your questions. No topic is off limits. Aaron has selected the questions based off your suggestions. Todd, you and I have yet to see any of these whatsoever. When we do, over the next 45 minutes or so, you and I are going to determine, are we going to buy that? We're going to sell it, maybe even discuss the reasons why. You are permitted to hold. After all, that is the game, buy, sell, or hold. But doing so is considered such an emasculating move that you deserve to be emasculated further as a due penalty for your sins. So you have to find out, what is Lindsey Graham doing right now behind closed doors to celebrate the mass troop and armament movement the Trump administration is doing in position to take out Iran?
Ever said.
What's that?
That's the most pornographic thing you've ever said.
Is it really?
Yes. Do you remember back in when I first started with you and we were at that thing in Ames where all the candidates were coming together and Lindsey Graham was there, Trump was there. This is what you've said behind the scenes where you heard
the event where I was supposed to accept the job offer from Trump.
Yes. But
it was a leadership summit.
But
yes,
when Lindsey Graham was being asked questions, he was there. Like, it didn't matter what the question was. He turned it around into like bombing someplace in the Middle East.
You got to respect that on some level.
To some level,
it didn't matter. Like food stamps, bomb Iran.
Kind of like Steve Forbes and the flat tax years ago. That was his answer to everything. Bomb Iran. Yeah. All right. Okay. Cool. All right. Listen, if there's one thing Americans do love, regardless of who's president, it's bombing the bleep out of Iran. All right. I know there's a group of particularly young men who are like, I don't want to die for a sandlot in Iran, and I don't blame you for that. But other than that group of demographic, which believe me, I'm sympathetic to, other than that demographic, man, Americans love bombing the bleep out of Iran. They do. That's just been proven time and time again, regardless of who's in charge. All right, Aaron, you're in charge now, brother. Fire away.
We'll begin with Darren, who says, firing Pam Bondi and replacing her with Trey Gowdy is the equivalent of crapping your pants and changing Jeff Sessions' shirt.
Oh,
I have no idea what that means, and it's so absurd, I think it's actually a perfect buy for me.
I'm a buy. For those of you that don't know, there was a story over the weekend that Lindsey Graham is personally lobbying Trump, that Pam Bondi's lost the confidence of the American people, which is true. and then having her replaced with the albino Trey Gowdy, the all-time all had and no cattle beta male. And as soon as I saw that report, as the guy that's kind of been one of the ringleaders of the Bondi's Gotta Go crowd now since like February, I think I've been saying that since the binder mess. I just wrote my Blaze column about this just a few days ago. When I saw, hey, if we're replacing Pam Bondi for Trey Gowdy, I'm telling you right now, man, Pam Bondi for life, bro. Pam Bondi, AG for life. For life, money. Okay? For life. At that point, Pam Bondi didn't choose the thug life. It chose her, G. All right? If it's Trey Gowdy, Pam Bondi for life. Dominoes. All in on Pam Bondi. You bet. 100%.
Or people are just going to be clipping that segment right there, taking out of context,
Yes.
bedazzling the hell out of it.
Yes.
There it is.
Yes, they will.
All right. Moving on, we go to Scott Graham, Iowa politics submission. Scott Graham says, no matter how far Feenstra drops in the polls, it will get 100% worse for him if he ever shows up to any debate forum or long-form conversation. Scott says he was at Bevy's Tavern last night, which was the location of the clip I played at the end of the montage.
That's the MAGA organization in our state, by the way. That's their event, right? MAGA Nation. That's the MAGA organization in our state. Yeah.
And Scott says that Feenstra last night gave Bondi a run for her money.
That's a buy.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you. I've known Randy Feenstra for years. They're not doing it smartly. Okay. They're not doing it smartly. And that's indicative of the fact they've allowed themselves now to get pigeonholed as they just hate their base. And I'm just telling you, I'm talking to other candidates around the state who aren't even willing to endorse in the governor race, who are telling me, listen, if Feenstra wins, we're screwed. If he's at the top of the ticket, we're screwed. If that's the top of our ticket for this cycle, we're screwed. So they're not doing it smartly, but they're not wrong to not subject him to people like us. He can't do it. He's not very good at this. I mean, Randy Feenstra is not Mitch McConnell rolling into CPAC waving an AR-15. All right? He's not capable of that. He's very bad at this. You know, the problem is we've so routed the Republican Party establishment in Iowa, they didn't really have a lot of other options to try to seize the moment here with Kim stepping aside, try to take back control of the party. They don't really have a lot of other options. And you have to understand that these are the kinds of people that if the choice is, they want to beat the Democrats, but if the choice is losing to Democrats or losing control of the party to people like us, I promise you they would choose losing to Democrats every single time. They'd much rather lose to Democrats than lose control of the party to people like us. And they greatly resent that we have as much control over the state party as we do. They greatly resent it. Problem is, they were just out of a lot of really good, capable, more polished candidates. And so they have to kind of go with this dweeb, you know, and he's just always been one. And I mean, I've got 7,000 things to do. Okay, I do right now. Adam Steen, I think, is a great candidate for governor. But I didn't even know Adam a year ago. I didn't. I think I met him in passing once. I knew his father very, 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 very well, which is why I was even willing to even give him a consideration, okay? But before I even knew Adam Steen or that he was going to run, I just knew right away, if Feenstra is our nominee, we are screwed. We're screwed. And you're just seeing a lot of evidence for that on this campaign trail. All the buys.
Yeah, somebody get that video to the White House and let's just put this thing to rest. Let's get the
the
reverse endorsement.
Yes. Next.
That would be hilarious if Trump put out an endorsement on anybody but Feenstra.
Yeah.
You guys figure this out. Okay. It just can't be him.
Just saying.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I might have to make some calls on that this afternoon. I had not thought about that.
Is this thing on?
Yeah. Did I say this out loud?
Yeah.
We're not on the air right now, are we? We're just talking amongst ourselves, correct?
I mean,
Yes.
his entire affect just screams beta.
Yes.
I'm out of focus right now. I don't know why. There we go. We're coming back into focus. It just screams beta.
Oh, I thought you were interpreting Feenstra still when you said that.
No, my camera went blurry for some reason.
Didn't you?
Autofocus.
I thought he was... Because I know, again, I've known Randy Feenstra for years. I could totally see him anchormanning, now turn to the left and speak. I could totally see it.
The spirit of Feenstra came upon you, bland and out of focus.
I mean, just stiff, wooden. But then when that guy says, why did you scrub your social media when, Trump ran for president?
Mm-hmm.
You could hear Randy say, hey. Just,
hey now. Oh my gosh.
Hey.
So screwed if that guy wins.
James is next. GTA 6 will be released before Bondi releases the full unredacted Epstein files.
All right. What's
that?
GTA 6?
Grand Theft Auto 6.
Oh, okay. I've heard of the game.
You're a big Grand Theft Auto guy, aren't you?
Yeah, I've played them all. Yeah, you bet. I didn't know that
Todd's
was kind of
even bigger Grand Theft Auto guy.
we can't get him to shut up about it. I didn't know there was like a moniker for it. Again, forgive me, I'm grandpa now. But so is this game like long delayed? Is that kind of what we're intimating here, I'm guessing?
Like any Rockstar game, it goes through delays.
Yeah. I'm going to sell because I think that there's just too many people now. I mean, if you're Thomas Massey, for example, you've gone this far. You pushed him to the point of releasing as much as they already did. Why don't you just keep it going? If you're Thomas Massey, your political career was likely over 3 months ago. It was over. And this issue has resurrected your political ambitions to the point, like I think this was my prediction on the Deace group last week. I think he's going to win his primary. In fact, I think it's more likely he'll win it going away right now than it is he'll lose it. I would not have said that 3 months ago. This issue has single-handedly resurrected your career. I mean, so why would you just not do this all over again, right? Get together with Ro Kahano over on the other side and just Sean Ryan's new podcast co-host and just do this all over. Why wouldn't you? You're Marjorie Taylor Greene. You're out of Congress. Why don't you just, get together with an organization and file a lawsuit demanding they release more and I think there's way more of a chance we're going to get more of this. If that game's that long delayed, I don't know how long it is. I think there's way more of a chance we're going to get more information out of this. A lot of people they've gone past the point now where standing up to Trump on this, and that's what they think they're doing anyway, so I'm looking at it from their perspective. They've already faced Marjorie Taylor Greene's already out of Congress. Massey's already facing a primary challenge. You see, the boats have been burned here. The bridges are singed. All the political incentivization is actually to continue radicalization on this and keep pushing on this. So I totally disagree with that. Sell.
Whatever my answer is on Massey, I just want to be clear that I hope Grand Theft Auto 6 never, ever, ever comes out. Ever.
Oh, so you're taking a buy because of that public service
whatever
announcement.
I have to answer to make sure that game doesn't exist, I will say it.
There you go.
All right, next we go to Jonathan. Israel trip agenda. Following the footsteps of Van Helsing in medieval Europe, Todd, dressed in Jedi robes, will walk the road to Damascus looking for the Demon's Cave from midnight mass. He'll find it empty. Soon thereafter, however, a man will appear in an Iranian-leased Land Rover and say, "Howdy, my friend. My name is Corey Mills."
Oh, my gosh.
Is that Jill Savage's burner account? Speaking of endorsements,
listen, there's at least a 50% chance, don't you think? Maybe 40. That Corey Mills has gone joyriding in Iran. At least a 40% chance.
Sure.
Yeah.
At least a 40% chance, as one does, right? If you're Howard Lutnick, let he who has not brought your wife and kids to have a lunch with a convicted sex offender on his own private island of human trafficking cast the first stone. I mean, who's not done such a thing? Right?
I saw that.
Who's not gone next to that stove and said, "I'm going face first. Forget temptation."
I saw many people sharing that biblical passage today for Ash Wednesday, Steve.
That's James Talarico's next speech. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
It's not Lent. It's Mark Wahlberg's 40-day challenge, Todd. NBC wants us to know.
Nice.
Whatever it was.
Nice.
Did they do that?
It's been a few years, yeah. That's an ongoing meme. It's not Lent. It's Mark Wahlberg's 40-day challenge.
That's good branding.
It is good branding. Yes, it is.
I know.
Come on, swing it. That's the tagline. Come on, swing it.
The more you think about it, the funnier it gets.
Nobody gets that. Don't ask.
I know.
No, fake. Oh my goodness! My ombudsman inside for a second paused, like, did he really? He did.
The director in the
He did.
control room. What is Lent? It's doing so. It's a 40-day challenge. Come on.
Come on, swing it.
I don't
Come
even
on,
get
swing
that.
it.
I have no idea what you're talking
You
about.
don't want to. Don't ask. Don't.
It's not lewd in any way. I promise you, it's not. All right, it's
I
not.
kind of think now it is.
I promise you, it's not lewd like in any way. It's not. No. All right. So it's a. Should we just tell him what it is, Aaron? Okay.
I thought I did. Maybe it
Okay,
is,
no.
and I thought it was lewd.
He had it's not lewd. He had a #1 song when we were in high school. All right. Mark Wahlberg did. He tried being a rapper at first because his brother was a New Kids on the Block. He tried being a rapper first, and he had a right after like Vanilla Ice. So apparently now we're looking for white rappers, and he had a #1 song. Okay, and one of the refrains in the song was Mark Wahlberg, repeatedly saying, "Come on, swing it, come on, swing it."
Oh no, I thought you were
Okay.
making a
Marky
movie
Mark and the
reference.
Funky Bunch. Isn't that what it was called?
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's what
I
the
never-
group is
I
called, right?
Couldn't tell you a song
Yeah.
he's saying.
So no, it's not a Boogie Nights reference or anything
Yeah, that's
lewd.
what I
Right?
thought
It's
it
not.
was.
No. No. So I'm glad we clarified it. It's not lewd in the absolute least. No.
It's a good thing we clarified that.
But Mark, as you know, Mark's gone on to become a great actor, obviously, and very well accomplished. Now, as he's gotten older, he takes his faith way more seriously. So he doesn't do a lot of Marky Mark and the Fun Bunch reminiscing. It's kind of his version of the, even though it was a #1 song, it's kind of his version of how Lucas views the Star Wars holiday special. Mistakes were made, we moved on, and yeah, that was a time. That kind of a thing, yes.
Greg, one more before we get out of here for this segment. Greg says within 5 years, the NFL will rebrand as the IFL or some derivative of International Football League.
Oh, no way. The NFL shield's too strong. They're way more likely to just get rid of all their American teams, put them all overseas, and still call it the NFL. They're way more likely to do that to you. They're never getting rid of that brand or shield. That's among the most iconic logos.
Get ready for the
planet.
Riyadh Rough Riders.
I can promise you the team in Riyadh ain't going to be called the Rough Riders, but yeah, I hear you. I like the alliteration there. Yeah.
Well, they'll never get rid of the shield because it's an idol. They're going to shine it. They're going to polish it. Guys, you got to have it all backwards.
We should do that. Let's come up with the international or the NFL. Just no American teams left, and they're all international teams. What that would look like? That could be fun.
No.
No? I think it could be fun. We'll come back. Hour 2 is next. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast alongside Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. I'm Steve Deace. You can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. Email the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. And don't forget to subscribe to our new YouTube channel. And don't forget about the news we broke here on the show yesterday. Want to thank the 16 attorney generals. You know what? I need to do this. I forgot to do this yesterday. So let me find their names here. There were 16 attorney generals led by my attorney general here in Iowa, ours, I should say, Brenna Bird. She's the one that picked up on this and led the fight, okay? Along with Ken Paxton there, the attorney general in Texas. They're the two kind of leading the fight that signed on to then go to Google and YouTube and say, hey, explain all this censorship of conservatives in particular, what you've done the last few years with Steve Deace, because this data just doesn't add up. That you cannot possibly explain that his show has grown on Apple iTunes 400% since the year 2000 and has gone in the exact opposite direction on your platform. How are these things possible? So if you're wondering, if your AG signed on to this letter of inquiry to Google YouTube, I mentioned Brenna Byrd, Attorney General of Iowa, Ken Paxton, Attorney General of Texas, Todd Rokita, Attorney General of Indiana, Stephen Cox from Alaska, Chris Kobach from Kansas, Tim Griffin at Arkansas, Liz Murrell in Louisiana, James Uthmeyer in Florida, Catherine Hanaway in Missouri, Raul Labrador in Idaho, Austin Knudsen, who we just had on the show yesterday, head of the Republican Attorney General's Association. He's in Montana. Mike Hilgers in Nevada. Alan Wilson, South Carolina, Marty Jackley, South Dakota, Getner Drummond in Oklahoma, and Drew Wrigley in North Dakota. Thanks to all 16 of you for signing on to that, and hopefully we can get some answers. And listen, I'm not above suing YouTube if we have to. I'd kind of rather have them take the thumb off the scale and just let us do our job and stop trying to censor us. That's the big win. So you can subscribe to our YouTube channel right now, at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And don't forget that you can also, if you're a podcast listener, hit subscribe, or if you're on Apple iTunes, follow, to make sure that every time we do a new episode, it's right there in your podcast feed. Thanks to all of you who have done that for us, and the tens of thousands of you in that group that have left us 5-star reviews. We appreciate each and every one of those, and we'd appreciate it if you would add yours. This part of the show brought to you by Masa Chips. At some point, most of us realize we don't actually need to overhaul our entire lives to feel better. We just need to stop making easy stuff worse than it has to be, and that's why you want to start eating Masa Chips. These are not diet chips. Most of those are disgusting, by the way, which is why people keep buying the stuff that's not good for them. No, these are definitely not pretending to be something that they are not. They're made with real food. You can taste the difference immediately. Just 3 to 5 ingredients per flavor, all things you can pronounce. And you're gonna be amazed how different you feel after eating these. You're gonna feel full, satisfied. Don't let the fact they come in a smaller bag fool you, because you're not gonna put down half a bag of these in one sitting like you can the chemical stuff, because they're not made with all those kinds of things. And so your appetite is satisfied. That snack craving is satisfied sooner. The Masa tortilla chips are phenomenal. My personal preference, their brother or sister. Their twin will go with that, maybe. The Vandy Crisps, which are the tallow beef chips from the same makers. Those are next level great.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. When you gave me one, I did not stop at just a handful. I ate that whole bag. It was incredible.
So much for my message on craving control. Anywho.
It was the first time.
Yes, that's true. Yes. A little overindulgence one time. Never hurt anybody, correct? Yes. All right. So if you're ready to give Masa a try, go to masachips.com/Deace. Use the code Deace. It works for the Vandy Crisps too. Use the code Deace for 25% off at Masa Chips, M-A-S-A. masachips.com/Deace. Code Deace for 25% off. All right, bottom of the hour, Daniel Horowitz is going to join us to take us inside politics. Let's march on with some buy, sell, or hold, Aaron.
All right, going back to the last segment, rebranding the NFL. We have this last-second submission. James has this. Top 5 European NFL teams. The Paris Punjabis. Number 2,
Do I want to Google that?
Isn't that like another way of saying Indians?
Oh, is it? Okay.
I think so.
The Berlin Burkas.
Yeah, that applies.
The Amsterdam Al-Qaedans.
That applies.
The Madrid Muhammads. And the London Jihadists.
That's brutal, man.
It's awesome.
Like I can't even giggle in any of those. That's just freaking tragic.
You can pee right in the face of NFL fans, and they will ask for more.
Did you guys see the Nigel Farage video going around? Of him standing up and talking about how, to his English audience, we can't do mass deportations. You see that?
No.
Now there's another guy that's launching another party.
Yeah.
To actually do mass deportation.
Yeah. From Brexit to, we can't actually do the only thing that would save our way of life, guys. Sorry. But, Nigel Farage, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Wow, that was, yikes. I'm sorry, didn't mean to hijack it. Go ahead, Aaron.
Danik Bain says Ron DeSantis successfully gets redistricting through in April and is nominated for Attorney General.
I would love for this to happen, okay? And as I'm sitting here with a non-0% chance that a trip I have looked forward to for about 6 months may not happen given the current maneuvers going on in the Middle East, I just need this in my life right now. I just need to entertain it. And there's a non-zero chance that this could happen. It could happen. Non-zero. It's not high.
It's non-zero.
But it's non-zero, right? So.
But it's close to zero.
So you ate the Masa Chips bag, all right, the whole bag. I'm going to indulge here. All right, this is mine. I can't put it down,
Yeah, I got you.
and I'm going to buy just because I need this in my life right now.
Yeah, I can't though. I just don't see it.
Next, we go to King of Kyle, who says the impending loss of boomers, 30 to 40 million of them over the next couple of years, will cause a sudden consumer and housing market collapse, followed by a robust rebound like a forest after a fire, but only with someone like Vance at the wheel.
I think the last part of your statement is key for the rest of that being true. Because if we don't have someone like Vance or with his perspective on these things in charge, then you have to ask yourself, yeah, invariably all these homeowners are going to die, right? Okay. So who's buying the homes? Right? If somebody like Vance is in charge, then there's going to be a high level of emphasis. Maybe it's not JD. I happen to think it will likely be, but I kind of likely hope that it is. But if it's not somebody that's at least adjacent to his view of things, it's way more likely you're going to see these things bought up by conglomerates and everything else before this correction happens. They would come in and try to buy them up before this kind of correction happens. And this process becomes a lot more democratized and affordable to young families, like maybe what, my oldest daughter has her own young family right now. Maybe your oldest will be in that arena here in the next couple of years, right? Okay. And so I think if we don't have somebody like Vance or Vance adjacent in charge, then you'd have to ask yourself, well, when who's going to immediately swoop in and buy these homes at the high end with these interest rates high that no one else can afford when these boomers die, right? Okay.
Yeah.
That's the key. Who's buying the homes? So since you included the Vance, I discourage when you guys put in double points and say that it almost never works. In this case, this double point has to work. Your second point has to be true for the first point to happen. And so now I think you're congruent, so I'll buy.
I agree with that. I'm going to play devil's advocate again and sell, though, because of the too much money brigade. Look at what it's toying with college sports. That it is a mindset that is consumed all, and it's going to take more than J.D. Vance to break it. I agree with Steve wholeheartedly. He seems like the kind of guy who cares about breaking it, but we're going to need more players involved, because this is not just the way you described it is almost like a cyclical thing. This isn't just an automatic cyclical autopilot in any way, shape, or form.
I've seen this posited. I'm going to try to change it into a buy, sell, or hold submission. Buy, sell, or hold. Eventually, the way housing, specifically purchasing housing, is viewed should not be viewed as an investment. Buy, sell, or hold.
So you're talking more of the George Bailey understanding of what it means for a man to have a roof over his head that he owns with a family.
Something like that.
It's
also
more metaphysical than that, is what you're saying.
Yes, but also when you see your home as an investment, and I think the claim has been made, I've seen it bandied about from various sources, when you see it as an investment, meaning that what? When you invest something, you would expect a return on that investment. When you do that and you get used to great returns on investment, a home in this case, you either or both price out the next generation of native home buyers out of potentially acquiring a home for themselves. And in order to keep that investment and keep a healthy return on investment, the temptation to import a broader market to drive up costs by reducing or by increasing demand, that temptation exists. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So we need to think differently about what it means to buy a home, that it should not be an investment.
So every previous generation would have bought homes for the meta reasons that you prefer, and the investment aspect of it would have been the gravy, would have been a value added. This isn't more of an era where those things are inverted. Is that kind of what I hear you saying?
Yes.
The order of
Yes.
things is improper. I don't disagree with that at all. I don't.
Well, yeah, the way you described it, which was important, I agree with, and it's why I keep bringing. It's worse than that because I bring up the movie The Big Short quite frequently. It becomes such a commodity that in no way people can see there's people living in that house to stay warm, to stay dry, and so there's people that end up betting against the success of the market so that they can get rich. It's the just too much money thing. And yeah, it's appalling. It's immoral. And yeah, I'm happy to be a part of smashing whatever I need to make sure that mindset about what the infrastructure is that families are being raised in does not continue down the road it currently is.
Next, we go to Schultz, who says buy, sell, or hold should qualify for 501c3 status as a religious organization because it, number one, has a high priest. I think that's me. Number two, has fervent adherents. That's self-evident every single week. Number three, requires submission. That's also self-evident. And number four, requires rites and rituals. That happens every week if a hold occurs. So buy, sell, or hold, buy, sell, or hold should qualify as a 501c3 religious organization.
Do we have fervent adherents?
Yeah, every single week we get hundreds of submissions.
Okay. All right. So
and you lay out the rules for holding as well. So you're adhering to those rules. Us here corporately.
Not to mention that as a nonprofit, virtually all this becomes some kind of a write-off. So, okay. I'm in. Bye.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So my income for this hour every week is tax-free now?
No, for the nonprofit, not for you. You still are individually pliable to the IRS. Yeah.
Shucks. Next, we go to Dale. The left will never ban conservative media, be it podcasts, radio shows, publications. They'll instead use AI to first curtail and then prevent people from accessing such media. Your vehicle usage allowance decreased if you listen to The Blaze on the way to work, for example.
Oh, I do think that's likely at first. But you do not ascribe, just to use the language of religion from the previous submission, do not ascribe strategy in place of a theology. They have a great desire to shut us down. They desire to do it. And these are not people that are known to limit and restrain their desires for strategic, tactical advantage. Quite the contrary. So don't underestimate their zealousness. There is absolutely a desire in their heart of hearts. The Virginia AG saying he fantasized about the deaths of Republicans and their children that's a fever dream, man. Okay. There's still an element in this audience here, even in this audience, that thinks that some level of strategic chicanery is being played here on the other side, as opposed to just straight up dominion. Straight up, we own you. And any strategic chicanery is only done as a temporary step, so they can they want to put you on a train. They want the day to come where they can put you on a train and send you away to a camp and look you in the eye, and you know the name of the person who did it. And if you don't understand that that's where this wants to go, then you're frankly just not capable of winning. You're not.
Well, there might be NFL teams in Europe. We got that to think about, Steve, on our side.
Well, I might reconsider if there are. Are there? Anywho, next submission. Go ahead.
We will go to
We have a fire weather warning right now in Iowa, guys.
Yeah, we do.
You ever seen that in mid-February in your lives?
It's very weird.
I very much doubt I have.
Yeah. I like to see it every February. I would.
Oh, my gosh.
Because you know what that means? No snow, no ice, warm temperatures.
It's
Ash
Wednesday. Endure. Just today. You can make it.
My inclination was,
Come on, swing it.
My inclination was, man, I kind of in a perverse way wish that we would have had more snow, because that means that we're in drought conditions. And Steve just comes over the top rope. I like drought conditions.
Yeah, give me a fire warning. Listen, it can rain all April when it's 70 degrees out. You know, that's what sump pumps are for. Okay. As long as it ain't snow and ice, I don't care. Yeah.
Next, we go to This Is the Day show. If the SAVE Act doesn't get passed, Elon Musk makes an effort to start another political party.
Sell. I think it's possible that he'll make this effort, but I think it'll be post-Trump. I think you're more likely if it is somebody other than a Rubio Vance kind of figure that wins the GOP nomination in 28, which I cannot foresee how that could happen. But I think it would be post-Trump, and then maybe we lose in 28, and then we're all left wondering, where do we go from here? That's when I think you could see Elon make such a move, but I don't think it'll be until then at the earliest.
Did I just see, yeah, I agree with you. Did I just see Thune once again lamenting the chaos that would happen, the bills that would not get passed if we blow up the filibuster and go to the old-fashioned one? Like, are you... The goal of having a bunch of Democrats go on a 60-day filibuster saying that we want illegals to vote, that you can't even with that somehow, John?
I mean, what legislative agenda have Republicans in the Senate been working on that would get hesitated?
Our entire adult life
and restrained and reserved that we're setting aside for the political gold it would be to make Democrats stand up there all spring long, all right, and say we absolutely want to cheat in elections. What's on the docket?
John.
What is it? Nothing. So here, you guys see what Fetterman did today?
I don't think so.
He's in favor. You see, he'll vote in favor of.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday or the day before. I think.
See that now they're sitting at 51.
Okay, here's what you do.
So that's not
here's your legislative agenda.
Yeah,
I want to reiterate this. Cots in the antechamber. Let Grassley, McConnell, and whoever else is the third oldest senator. You don't have to be here. Okay. I think that would get us to 50. We need 51 for quorum.
Yep.
Vice President can't. So sorry, that other oldest senator, you have to stay there. Here's your legislative agenda. Sleep. Just sleep for democracy. Just sleep. Just sleep.
Just be an old
All
man.
you can do is sleep. All you have to do is sleep. They can talk for 60 days. All you can do is sleep. All you have to do is sleep. You can do that. It's been done before. All you have to do is just sleep. Just sleep to save America. And Grassley and McConnell, you don't even have to be there. Am I really that nuts? Just sleep. All you have to do, set up cots and sleep.
See, I think they are going to end up suspending the filibuster to pass it, and here's why. Everyone knows they now have the votes to pass this. If they don't make it law now, if they fail at it now, let me use an analogy. Everybody wants to give there's some people, some of you that want to give McConnell, some of you do, and many establishment people do, want to give McConnell credit for Amy Coney Barrett, or I'm sorry, credit for not making Merrick Garland succeed Antonin Scalia in 2016 during the election. Because remember, Scalia died during the primary. And yes, I'm fine giving McConnell credit for that. But the reason why, because he was the leader that made that decision. But the reason why that doesn't overshadow all the other times, including on the SAVE Act, where he shanks us now, is because you have to understand what McConnell's motivations were. What was the number 2 issue behind the economy in the 2016 midterm elections? Do you guys remember what they were in the exits? It was judicial nominees. Judicial nominees was the number 2 issue behind the economy. Trump won people who voted on judicial nominees by about 20 points. In other words, without the promise of judicial nominees, Donald and remember he had the list that came from Heritage and the FedSox. Remember that? The list of judges, put them out there. Okay, and I'm going to appoint the judges that overturn Roe. Without that, Donald Trump is never president. That's the issue that got him elected. Not even the wall in immigration got him the nomination. But the reason why you got several people who were squeamish about him the entire time to vote for him is, in the end, do I really want Hillary Clinton, endorsing not just nominating Scalia's replacement, but the next 2 or 3 justices as well? And the answer, of course, was no. So if McConnell had not done that, if he had said, well, we have to abide by Senate tradition here and blue slip this thing, and we don't have the votes to stop it with the filibuster, so we're gonna, I guess, have a Obama appoint Scalia. If he had done that, you think what happens in that election cycle? We get screwed. We lose. But we don't just lose that election cycle. Like generationally, people are like, oh, you guys have been lying to me the entire time. So he had to do something he didn't want to do. That's why that's always the one fight people always point to that McConnell did, because it's the only fight that he ever did. That wasn't when he wasn't fighting us. The only time he ever fought them was on Merrick Garland. That's the only time, because he knew the entire canard for what gets our people to vote for them year after year and cycle after cycle, that shibboleth would get smashed into pieces and they'd never return. So he had to do it because it served an overall agenda. I think we're at that point now with this. We know they have the votes. Fetterman coming in now and saying, well, I'll be the 51st vote. That's smart politics, by the way. Okay, notice he didn't do that a few weeks ago when they were at 38 or 39. He waits until they're over 50 and waits for a couple of Republicans to out themselves saying they don't want to vote for it and says, well, I'll be 51. Yeah. That's the guy playing 4D chess over there, okay? He's the one doing it, all right? And so now they're screwed. If they don't follow through and do this now, I'm telling you right now, we would need to have Reagan-era economic boom, or we're getting drilled in November if they don't do this now. Nothing else literally could happen. Nothing else.
Agreed.
Nothing else could literally happen. We're toast. Barring a Reagan-level economic boom the next 6 months, if they don't do this now, we're toast. And that's why they're going to do it. Because they're now backed into a corner now, and everybody knows they have the votes, and the only limiting principle as to why they wouldn't do it is themselves. And the Republican Party cannot risk outing itself that blatantly as feckless and treacherous, because that gets right to somebody like Elon Musk doing what you are suggesting. But the reason why Musk won't do it now is because he's investing hundreds of millions into this cycle for Republicans right now. He's not going to bet against himself. But I will grant you that would be the kind of event that in 3 or 5 years when Musk does do it, and if he's successful, we would look back and say, now that was kind of the beginning of what led us, the chain of events that led us to this moment. All right, before we finish up with a bit of a lightning round here, and then we'll do the rest into overtime, don't forget about Jace Medical. And, Jace case, the Jace case came on board here with us right during the height of the scamdemic because they were concerned about what was being said about venerable medications like hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin and more. And so they want to make sure that can't be done in the future to other venerable medications like penicillin, doxycycline, and more. You can get the Jace case with those antibiotics that have proven the test of time. For the next time, that could never happens here. But they've got tons of other preparedness products as well. Over the last 6 years, they have greatly expanded their menu to make sure that you can take as much control over your healthcare as possible. Go check them all out right now. When you go to jace.com, use the promo code DEACE, you'll get a discount when you do. All right? Enter the promo code DEACE at checkout for a discount on your order. That's promo code DEACE at jase.com. Promo code DEACE at jace.com. Take as much control over your healthcare as you can with the promo code DEACE at jace.com.
Next, we go to Travis, who says theological navel-gazing is the refuge of the politically black-pilled church.
No, there's a lot of truth to this. I'll buy.
Yep.
Yeah. An excuse to not do anything. Just ponder. Yeah.
Next, Joseph Jokinen says Mount Rushmore list of books Steve will write before he is invited to speak at CPAC. Why Ramadan?
Oh my gosh.
Why Diwali? Why Earth Day? And why festivals?
I see what you did there. Wow. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, why Diwali, by the way, that's a deep cut. That's a deep track. All right. Respect. All right. I mean, that's.
You remember that you've seen in offices everywhere, Successories, I think it was called, but those motivational, a saying and a picture, but then somebody came up with the opposite and did demotivators.
Demotivational.
They were just fantastic. That's your version of this.
You will never achieve anything.
Yeah.
Why keep going?
Oh, there's this
just
one.
Stop.
And they're beautiful pictures. There's a beautiful one. It's like a sunset, and it's a silhouette of a girl and a guy jogging, and the girl is slightly ahead, and the guy's behind her. And the saying is, "It's over, man. Let her go."
There's a little deep thoughts with Jack Haney.
Yep.
I mean, my all-time favorite one of those was, "It takes a big man to cry."
Yes.
But it takes an even bigger man to laugh at him as he's crying.
Yeah.
Yes, that's my favorite one. I got to buy that. That's a brilliant submission right there, man. You get me. You complete me.
Can you imagine the art on why Kwanzaa?
I can imagine getting it. I can imagine
That's the
getting
wood
a lot of
chipper
people.
story, right?
I can imagine it getting a lot of people fired. I can imagine that.
Just make sure your candles are made of beeswax, or y'all might as well be white.
Nice.
Linda says, if the U.S. Okay, two people got that reference. If the U.S. attacks Iran, the U.S. will see these sleeper cells wake up. There will be attacks on the electric grids and possibly water systems. This is what I've been talking about dead men's switches, swords of Damocles across the world.
I'll buy. There's a lot, more than zero chance? Yeah.
I think there could be some of this. Sure, I'll buy. I also think, I'm not saying to do it for this reason, of course. We don't do evil so that good may come. All right? That's right out of the Word of God. However, if you're a little concerned that any zeal for mass deportations has ceased, this might do it. Know what I'm saying? This is the kind of thing that makes people think. Yeah, on second thought, deport them all. That'd be the kind of thing that would do it. Something to think about there. Yeah.
Next, Jim has this. If the Senate fails to pass the Save America Act, the Democrats' blowout victories in the midterms will make this is what you were just talking about, make the GOP's Tea Party wins look like peanuts in comparison. The Dems' insanity isn't as big as get out the vote driver as righty media would have us to believe.
I totally agree with the spirit of this. It would not make the Tea Parties look like JV elections because we're way more balkanized and gerrymandered than we were in 2010 and 2014. Okay. So there's just too many places where both sides can't win. Like you're not going to see a 9-seat swing in the U.S. Senate like we saw in 2014. That's not happening in this cycle. Okay. There's just too many places where people can't win. So, but the spirit of what you're saying is 100% correct. And it does go back, as Aaron pointed out, to just what I said. Our people now know. Okay. And what I mean by our people now, I don't just mean those that are tuning to shows like this, but our people that are at the water coolers or the break rooms at their jobs. They know all. That's when does it permeate from up here where we all are to down here where they are? Okay, and I think this has permeated downhill to where they are now. They know that this could get done. They know that the votes are there, and they're going to know that the only reason it didn't get done is Republicans didn't want to do it, and that would be the single greatest act of self-immolation that we've ever seen in modern American politics, which is why I don't think the Republican Party is dumb enough to do it. You might argue, there's some of you, in fact, I won't even ask Daniel this next segment because I'm afraid of what his answer will be. I could see Daniel saying, actually, I kind of hope they don't do it so that we get the outcome that you're talking about here, because you're right. You're exactly right, Steve. That would be the death knell of the Republican Party.
Right. You should not ask him.
I'm not going to ask him that.
He will pull the pin on that grenade.
Yes, he
kill
will.
Us all.
Yes,
you should
hit
ask him that.
Hit me. Hit me.
You should ask him that.
Aaron's like, yes, ask him that.
Okay.
Oh, gosh. We'll come back. We'll get to more of your buy, sell, or holds in the overtime for subscribers today at blazetv.com/Deace. For the rest of you back here in a moment, Daniel Horowitz will be with us. Stay tuned.
The Steve Deace Show.
All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show. You know I love my Miracle Made sheets. Slept on them again last night. Crafted with NASA-inspired silver-infused fabric that helps regulate your body temperature all night long. We've got kind of an early spring in the Midwest right now, and so we're having that temperature fluctuation again. The windows are open, temps in the low to mid-60s, but then it gets down chilly again at night, right? That's where these things, man, especially over the change of seasons, really come in handy. They make sure that you're sleeping in the comfort zone all night long. By the way, that same silver technology that helps with thermoregulating also helps with antibacteria as well. It keeps about 99.7% of bacteria off your sheets that maybe your regular store-bought sheets end up accumulating, right? So, and let's not bury the lead here. These things feel great. They're comfy, right? So that's why I'm a big fan. That's why we've been promoting them for the last few years on the show. So upgrade your sleep. Give the gift of better rest if you want to do that instead to someone you love. Go to trymiracle.com/Deace and try your Miracle Made sheets today. If you do that, you're going to save over 40%. And then when you use the promo code Deace, you'll get an extra 20% off and a free 3-piece towel set. All right, that's trymiracle.com/Deace, code Deace at checkout at trymiracle.com/Deace, code Deace. We welcome in now the prophet of woe and lamentation himself. He joins us now. Daniel Horowitz, it is good to see you, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Ready with a double dose barrel as always.
All right. Well, let me start with something very personal, if you'll indulge me for a second. All right. The maneuvers that we are doing right now in the Middle East, we are all actually scheduled to leave for Israel on Saturday. And
wow.
And what's funny? I think I forgot to tell you that this entire time, didn't I? Right. Just goes to show we're always on task. I forgot to tell you this. By the way, if our wives knew each other, this is all they'd be talking about. This is what guys are like. I forgot to tell one of my best buddies in the business. I'm going to Israel. Yeah. Well, surprise. All right. Yeah. We've been planning this trip for several months to film a 3-day documentary that we're going to run later in the year here on the show. Okay. Kind of a walk where Jesus walked, kind of a thing. And then, but now with these maneuvers in the Middle East, what are the chances we're not taking that flight to Tel Aviv on Saturday? Your thoughts?
Steve, I don't know. We're going to have to get Florida to bail you out again. Like I think this happened, what was it, last May or June?
Last June.
When they had to, I had some family that took a trip there. So it's always very tenuous. Steve, I don't know, because the buildup has been so long. I don't get what's going on there. Obviously, we have a buildup of the fleet there. If you're going for about a week, I'd say you're fine. I don't think it's quite that imminent, but you might want to have the governor's office on speed dial.
Why would do you think we do a multi-billion dollar mobilization over there just to send some mean tweets? That's kind of not been Trump's style, frankly. Now, it's also different here. He does that with Congress, of course, but not typically with the foreign governments. And he also gave them, I think about a week and a half ago, a 30-day deadline. He's been prone to let those deadlines go all the way, maybe even give you, like a typical lender 10-day grace period, and then, kind of act after that. This would be the first time I can recall he's given a deadline and then not even allowed it to get close to its expiration. So, I mean, I don't know. What do you think? I
think it's a few more weeks. I would say it's a little bit more than that. The other difference between this and Venezuela is I'm sure whatever happens, Israel will take the lead. Mm-hmm.
Well, I texted Mark Levin this morning. I've texted lots of mutual friends we have. I'm checking with every possible source I have. And right now the verdict is very 50-50 right now.
Yep.
On whether to take this trip this week. I will tell you this, if we weren't taking our wives, provided the airlines would take us, we'd all 100% go. Right? The dude in me is like, yeah, but we're taking our wives on the trip. So that kind of changes the math in the calculus a little bit. All right. Let's go ahead and ask you the question I said I wasn't going to ask. All right? Because Aaron wants me to hand you the grenade and pull the pin. Okay? We were just discussing this in Buy, Sell, or Hold. I believe the SAVE Act is going to happen now. I do. Even if they have to temporarily suspend the filibuster, and here's why. For the same reasons that the only time in his career that Mitch McConnell fought the left was over Merrick Garland. Because if Mitch McConnell allows a lame duck Barack Obama to appoint the successor to the most beloved conservative jurist of the 20th century, or at least post-World War II, Antonin Scalia, who had died earlier that year. If he does that, the entire canard that has most of our people still voting Republican over and over again, including me, frankly, judicial nominees, is just blown into the water. And so he didn't want to fight the left, I don't think, but he kind of had to, because that was inherent to keeping going their entire paradigm, right? And then if you look at the exit polls in the 2016 elections, behind the economy, the number 2 issue was judicial nominees, and Trump won those voters by 20 points. So without that issue, you could argue without Scalia's retirement, without Trump putting out the list of judges from the Heritage Foundation and FedSoc and promising to overturn Roe with a judge, he probably doesn't win the presidency without that issue, right? This is now permeated beyond up here where we're talking to our audiences, but down here, all right? The average person that votes our way knows what this act is, knows that it could happen, knows that we have the votes, and the only reason now that it wouldn't happen is Republicans are not willing to do what it would take to make it happen. The generational cost of this, if this thing doesn't pass, we need a Reagan-level boom in the next 6 months, or we're getting absolutely, totally, no matter what else happens on planet Earth, annihilated. All right, because we have now told our base, yeah, we really are the liars that the Daniel Horowitzes of the world have been claiming to you that we have been all these years, which is why they can't afford to do that, which is why I think they're going to do it, okay? But if you knew, if you agree with me that them not doing it would mean that would finally create the galvanizing moment for a party to represent us better than the GOP to emerge, would you take that trade?
I would 100% take that trade, Steve. I think, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I actually agree that the SAFE Act, and by the way, that's sponsored by our mutual friend, Chip Roy.
Yes.
I believe it is quintessentially the GOP focus, because it's not that it's not a good issue, just like, filling Scalia's seat. But it's not really the whole ball game, but it's what the base is acculturated to perceiving as the whole ball game. So in other words, you and I both know that voter fraud is not the fundamental issue. It's that we do have a lot of close races, especially the lower down you get, and it makes a difference. Non-citizens voting, fraudulent voting. But fundamentally, the reason Republicans are where we are economically, socially, is because the GOP in itself is the greater voter fraud. So in other words, they need to keep the allurement of that it's someone else's fault. It's the courts. We need to get better judges on the courts, or it's the get rid of the fraudulent voters, even though, you can get rid of every single fraudulent vote and they will get slammed in this election because they have all the liabilities of incumbency and none of the benefits, terrible economy. I will say this, if the trajectory continues like you're saying, Rob Sands will be governor of Iowa. I've listened to some of his talks. He's been talking about data centers, land use. He's outflanking Republicans on everything. And that is what guys like that are running on. You will lose Alaska, Iowa, Ohio, who knows, even other surprises at this point. So will they do it? It's kind of like the Iran thing, kind of 50-50. Put it this way. If Trump leans in on it and demands it, I think he gets it. I'm not 100% sure where he is, because he did say he doesn't want, he said something to the effect of, I've accomplished everything I want to accomplish in 4 years. I don't need budget reconciliation. Now, that might be aside from this, so I'm not sure. But I do agree with you that they need to pull some rabbit out of their hat, because right now they might continue to say inflation is shockingly low, but I think they know that, maybe they think they have to say that. They know that voters aren't buying it. They need something to galvanize people. And this is a good issue because, rightfully or wrongfully, we saw it in the exit polling in the primary, in the 2022 primary, our voters, in my view, actually put a greater emphasis on voter fraud that, in my view, even exists, or is the fundamental problem.
I mean, listen, Trump's persona is not like, actually, I could do better, and there's some things I could do better at, and I hope that, we maybe, he's just not, he's never going to, of course Trump is going to say, Trump would have, if we would have asked Trump day one, first day got January 20th, 2017, have you accomplished? Absolutely, already accomplished it, it's already done, golden ages. I mean, that's just his branding and messaging, right? I think so. I think one of the things I think that has become fascinating is I'm seeing some MAGA influencers now say that they see Trump kind of adopting the messaging tactic of the Democrats, which is to talk very moderately when you're talking to corporate media and then go online and tell the base, give it all the red meat talking points that it wants. Are you seeing that kind of pattern at the same time? Because the Democrats have been doing that here, and successfully for a while.
There's no question. There's no question about that. I would also add that the same thing when he talks to some of the corporate CEOs is a different message than what he would say at a rally, or Truth Social, which I would call his base as the audience, even though the media is obviously going to pick up on that. I will say what does surprise me, I understand the ego, but typically the way you would parlay that into constructive reality would be that, look, give me the votes. I don't have enough votes. I want to do more. I've done a lot, but here's what I want to do more. That's typically the message. And, the Democrats are blocking it, or you got bad Republicans and whatever. But if you're going to say you did everything you did, the economy is great, yeah, you really got to offer people something. I am shocked at what I'm starting to see with the Democrats. They're really tying into this sort of corrupt economy that swings against the forgotten man. They're using all of our talking points. In fact, you could rerun everything that was said in 2024, and Democrat candidates are running like that. It's pretty crazy. Now, I'm not fooled by it. I mean, Spanberger in Virginia, she got in there. She was complaining about the data centers. And of course, as we all knew, nothing's changing there because, when they get in, they're owned by the same special interests. But at the end of the day, if they're the ones not in power and they run on that message, Steve, that's going to be hard to beat. I will put out a prediction now. If the trajectory doesn't change, I believe you will have a Democrat governor. And Steve, I got to say, if you're an Iowan, okay, Iowa voter, I'm not trying to say voter fraud doesn't exist, but in the state of Iowa, the reason things exist that you're not happy with is a lot more because of people like Randy Finstra and Ashley Hinson than it is because of voter fraud. That is the bigger voter fraud that I think we need to focus on this time of year.
All right, we got about 3 minutes here. I saw you post something today I want you to clarify for our audience, that in your career you cannot recall an issue that is more separation of a chasm between the average Republican voter and the leadership than the AI data centers. Quantify that for us.
So Steve, one thing you have to admit is I do have self-awareness of which one of my issues are winning and not. I know I'm more right-wing or socially conservative, religious, than I get it. And typically I'm the one talking about an issue years ahead of time and nobody cares. And it's like, is anyone listening? So I started talking about this about 15 months ago, and this really tugged at my heart. I visited West Virginia, and I saw literally the forgotten man's home and everything that you would expect with the signs, no data centers, save our land, save our communities. And I really took that to heart. And Steve, within months, that thing has blown up. I mean, I could retire, and the people are taking it from there. At a street level, this is the new Tea Party, albeit it's actually nonpartisan. So both sides agree. It's an up or down, not a right or left issue.
So this is more like a common core, is what you're saying.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is bad. So what I played, that clip there, was from Claremore, Oklahoma. This is a Trump plus 50 county. And the people were screaming. They arrested a guy for just talking, and everyone was like, shame, shame. And you look around, it was very even keeled. They weren't like the ICE protesters, in Minneapolis. They were quintessentially our people. Older, white, rural, exactly what you would expect for the core MAGA crowd. They're bearing the brunt of it. This is so radioactive, it's not even funny.
All right.
Just,
why is in a minute, can you explain why is this different than the textile mills of yesteryear, the smokestacks of the manufacturing plant of yesteryear, the coal mines? Why is this? I mean, I'm sure those generations thought those were eyesores, right? Why is this different than those?
So here's the interesting thing. All of those things you just mentioned, they employed all the locals. So if anything, they had the most support. The anti-coal people were outside of West Virginia, right? They
don't believe these jobs are going to them, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Right now, you're seeing all of the liabilities on the promise of very nuanced, speculative benefits that are hard for people to ever depict, much less actually see. And, for example, like they're writing legislation, they just had this in West Virginia, that they want to abolish all taxation on data centers. So if you're a farmer, you have to pay property taxes, sales tax, no sales property or income tax in the bill. Do you know how many jobs you have to create in return? 10.
Okay. Good to see you, my friend.
That's why it's all about the jobs.
No doubt. I get it. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Gentlemen, we have a minute and a half here. Your final thoughts on today's show or what you just heard?
We're going to be having that conversation over and over and over again because there's just a too much money conversation for somebody on the side of that. And then, the Chinese are doing it and we've got to keep up. There's all kinds of reasons, but Daniel is absolutely over the target. Everybody else is just supposed to suck it up and deal with it, and they're tired of it.
Yes, and I appreciate these because we kind of game theoried this out in a way, I think live in real time one time earlier last year. But the second, third, fourth order impacts, like, why is West Virginia an appealing destination for data centers? There's so much natural beauty there. You wouldn't think there's not a whole lot of flat ground. There is in a place like Iowa. It's picturesque in a way, Iowa is, and I know there's already a fight in Iowa over wind turbines that they have installed over the last, 20 years, 15 years or so for being eyesores. But I'm just saying, apples for apples. You would think Iowa would be the place, and we have data centers here as well. Why West Virginia? And so you start asking yourself, well, is West Virginia being targeted because they have a state legislature that's ripe for these benefits? You start asking yourself questions like this, and then you start questioning the entire exercise as a whole. And as far as Daniel is concerned, it sounds like that leads to some pretty dark places.
More importantly, it sounds like that's where a lot of our voters in these communities think that leads. So, all right, that's going to do it for today's show. We're back at it again tomorrow, noon to 2 Eastern, right after Glenn Beck, right here on Blaze TV. Until then, go hard. Romans 8:28.